All right, we're live, I think, if I remembered how to do everything.
Hasn't been that long, has it?
Sometimes you just
Monday.
wake up and you forget everything.
Yeah. Hopefully not everything.
Yeah, I'm still trying to get oriented. I think I know what we're doing today.
I
e-
know you said maybe roadmap stuff, but I don't know if that's like secondary.
Well, we're trying to get to a 0.3 release. We've got a bunch of things done.
Oh, actually, maybe you did do some of that at the end of the last stream. Sorry, I don't really.
Yeah, I don't remember either. Let's see. I mean, I guess there's still some work to do with the integration with the VM stuff, and I keep doing that in parallel because it's kind of a tricky thing. But we have all the file system stuff. We don't have really any useful processes. So that's kind of what we want to work on, because ultimately we want to run WASI, WebAssembly binaries compiled for the WASI standard, which is something that Wanix couldn't do before. And that's going to be a whole thing. And so there's some steps to get there. So I think we're going to start on those today. There's a mess of code in the WASM stuff. I think we can kind of clean up, which might be fun to do today because it's easy.
Nice.
And then because our process model in the browser is going to use web workers, so we'll create a web worker thing. And then maybe not today, but there's a service worker module. What to call these, because they're file systems here, but they're kind of, I played with calling them devices, but we would often call specific files devices in the Linux world. So a whole file system, that would be confusing. Maybe they should just be some kind of module thing. But service worker will let our system serve files.
Seems important.
Yeah, like, if now that you have this file system, could you create an iframe that can load files from that file system? Normally, the browser wants to load things over the network, but Service Worker lets you intercept that. That was a part of the original Wanix, how a lot of that worked. And once we have that, we can get into getting VS Code in here, because VS Code is a bunch of static files. But we probably won't get to those today. We get some. Oh, and then yeah, maybe a 0.3 release. There.
So are you thinking like next week for the release, or will this other stuff? So maybe it'll take longer than that, actually.
good question. I mean, I also want to behind the scenes get the finish the Linux bridge. Right
So,
now
yeah, more
it's read only, but I think we can get to a 0.3 release by the end of the month.
Cool.
So I guess let's see. Brown. So for anybody new, we're working on Wanix. Started a year ago. Unix-like environment that's 100% WebAssembly. Originally ran in the browser, now we're designing it to basically rebooting it to be able to do a lot more stuff than it could do before. And it could already do a lot of stuff, but this architecture is much simpler and implements a lot of the cool ideas in Plan 9, which Plan 9 night this Friday in our Discord. What else? That's it. Okay. Yeah. 80. This is the win. So ever since we started getting it running in the browser mess, I've been created this WASM package, but it really is set up like a proof of concept. So maybe we can start cleaning this up. Especially because I haven't committed this code to GitHub yet. So if anybody was trying to follow along, even though it's in the 0.3 branch, it would not be up to date. Let's see. Now that we've used Mage for stuff, been using it a little bit more. Especially because you can just, unlike Make, where it can just only do shell commands, you can have it run servers and stuff. It's kind of nice.
So I know we took Mage out of the static site generator. So is it just for like dev work?
Yeah.
Got it.
I don't know. I mean, maybe that's a good model where it's not really necessary if you're just trying to get up and going to use it. But if you get into development, then it becomes useful. Because then you're already going to have Go installed and stuff. I don't know. I really just did it because it was for me. But we do need a task to build the WASM stuff and serve a page, but I don't know if this is going to live in the WASM directory or what. This nonsense. Normally you would, you have your packages and their own thing with their own package name, and then separately whatever your entry point is. Often you would create a command directory if you're doing a CLI tool, and that would all be in a main package. WASM is kind of the same way in that it's basically has a main package as an entry point. And we might want to split this up. You know, I also wanted to reorganize some of these file systems. Like there's these core ones, the file system, and the proc file system, and maybe do a web one. All this other stuff would be under like the DOM. For now, the VM is web specific. And then if we were to do workers, this is not actual code, I'm just kind of like visualizing. And maybe the service worker might have something like this. We just have a bunch of stuff that's specific to the web. Maybe we put them all under a web thing. Just kind of how this set up. Let's do that because that's pretty easy, I think. Right now, the web package is just a directory for other things, so we can make a package for it. Most of our file systems have actually done something. This is like a container one, so it's kind of like the kernel, which is sort of like a container for these other things. So DOM. Like, oh yeah, you want these, but those don't exist yet. I didn't include this. There's a what's going on here? Oh, Bill. Maybe it's these are all made to only be compiled when you're compiling for WASM. Which is, yeah, kind of neat. We have sort of a WASM version of the kernel that has web-specific stuff, and then a non-WASM version that we can use for the command line, one that runs outside the browser, done with build tags. But then the tooling gets kind of confused, I guess, because if you don't have this, then the input, you know, it said I couldn't find the DOM package because it was assuming you weren't going to build it for WASM, and it wouldn't see it only if you build for WASM.
Hmm.
Anyway, guess we'll call it. Maybe I'll try out calling it a module.
I mean, that seems fine unless you need it to like convey more information, I guess.
Well, so the other thing is well, it's kind of so far that the choices are calling it a file system or calling it a device or calling it a module. And I feel like there's problems with all of them, but calling it module is actually again in Go, almost all the types are prefixed by their package name. So it would be web mod. And so there it's now specific that way.
Yeah. I mean, it seems better than device if you said device is used for other things.
But the thing is, computer science is all abstractions. It's all made up. It's all already metaphors. So, it's like the desktop. It's not really a desktop. Files. It's not really a file. Physical sense. But then we have this idea of the file in computing. But then we generalize it even more to say, oh, a file is a thing that you can open and read write. I guess they would call them like device files. It's not a data thing. Anyway, I don't know. Maybe they'll end up just being module. I mean, this is its own thing, Wanix. I mean, we can come up with our own terminology for things, but since there's so much overlap with the existing ideas of file systems and Unix and Linux stuff, that it might be confusing to call them devices. I don't know. I'm not going to change these ones yet, but we'll try out calling this a web.
Doesn't that bug you to have both?
A little. When I was working on a game in Unity, I don't know. It's something I do when I work on a system where I try different things. It's like, oh, let's, try. Like in Unity, when you're doing game development, there's like 3 ways you can do essentially tweening. Like if you're doing an animation where a value, your position is in one place, and then over time it's going to become something else. And there's like 3 or 4 different ways that you can do that. And I never like, oh, there's this one true way. I'll kind of do what feels right in the context. And then over time, that gives me an idea of which approach. You sort of develop an intuition. Like too many people are like, this is the one way to do it. And then they don't ever explore better ways. So it's kind of a way to explore new abstractions, new approaches, while also figuring out where is the right place for them. But in the meantime, it makes the code base a little inconsistent. Here we're just talking about names, but and naming is something that I probably would want to be more consistent before a release or something. But at least during development, you can like try things out and see how they feel. So it does bug me, but that's also my rationalization for allowing it.
Interesting.
If we didn't do that, like we could go back, we could rename these to module, and then we decide, oh, module doesn't quite work. Let's go back to device or something else. And then it's like, oh, let's change everything again. So I don't know. It kind of lets you try different things at once and then come to a conclusion.
I
It's not
guess
like
my worry would be that I would forget to go back and change it or fix it. But
that's
it's not
that's
like
possible.
the world's gonna end.
I mean, for like how you organize code, especially in a game where, I don't know, a game where an indie game where it's just you. For open source project, I care a lot more about what the API feels like, so I would probably go back and fix stuff.
That
But
makes
yeah,
sense.
at the end of the day, it's code. It's if it runs, it's. But there is that idea of other people are going to be using this, and it does inform the language of, you know, when you write documentation, you have to talk about things conceptually. Are you going to call them devices or modules? You got to pick one. So anyway, for now, we'll just do this. So all this is doing, we want this to actually implement a file system though too. Ooh, I wonder if we could just do sub. Oh, we can't just do. So to implement a file system, we need to implement open. If anything underneath it needs the context, we also need to implement open context. One thing that I often do is like I'll grab some code and then change the types here, but then not change the variable. So it's like D, why is it D? I mean, that really doesn't matter that much, but
Yeah.
Let's see. I get map of it. So here's where we're actually defining what this web file system will look like. And I guess we would just do that. Implement open. This. Oh, it's using. Okay. So now there is a web file system, and the DOM and VM are underneath it.
Nice.
We need to. Now I guess, yeah. Says okay, and then we need to bind them into the namespace. first as the like system hidden one. Huh. I kind of like that you can individually, you know, you could create a namespace that just has the DOM. I guess it's you would bind a, needed to do a bind web DOM, put that at DOM. We don't need to also have a top level DOM. So this can just be web. Okay, and then lastly in the actual checking stuff out. Maybe that's all we have to do. Let's see if this. Oh, I need to rebuild. What? Okay. I guess that makes sense.
What do you mean?
Well, OPFS is a type of file system you can create, but it is part of the web package. And even though this is created by creating a binding, fsys1 is the OPFS mount. I'm just wondering how that should work. How OPFS. So here we have to register them with the file system device or module. So maybe we do that in web and we have to pass the file system. I hate that when you're defining something and one of the things that you define is going to be passed to something else. Create a variable. I think that weird. Like this, and then we would be able to pass it.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
You couldn't just put fsys.new in parentheses.
That would create another one that it would register with, and then that wouldn't be the one that's here.
Makes sense.
But in theory, now we can move this registration stuff here. Oh man, yeah, I guess. Automatically pick that up, but okay. So because we have some web specific file systems that we want to, file system types that you can create through the file system, we have to register them with the file system. So we do that here since these are all part of the web package. I guess that works. Have a little inconsistent, but sometimes want things to be consistent, and other times I'm okay with. I mean, ideally things are consistent always, right? But
Mm-hmm.
okay,
Feels like
so
less mental load, I suppose, if it can be consistent.
yeah, I mean it's probably also like an OCD thing,
I don't know.
but I think you're right. I mean it's part of like creating a good mental model. If it's simpler, consistency is going to be simpler because it's consistent, not different for every
Mhm.
situation. And I guess we should make sure that these all still work. Now that they're under this web thing. So let's see, what can we do with DOM? Oh yeah, style. Let's do DOM style. Okay, that still works. Which means probably everything else still works.
Probably.
Read. I got terminal. Oh. Yeah, let's see. DOM. Okay. I won't do the rest of this stuff. The VMs probably works. All right, so yeah, we moved everything under all the web stuff under web. A little bit of cleanup. Wasn't too hard. But we still have a bunch of stuff in here to figure out how to organize. I guess a big part is this main.go. It bothers me that there's so much other stuff in here.
So we're rewriting Wanix. So it sounds like you don't want to follow like the organization conventions you had previously.
Well, it was such a different architecture that we didn't really, it almost wouldn't apply, but we can like look to see if there's some patterns that we could use. Plus, I don't always do things the same.
Yeah, I was just wondering if like it would be a useful inspiration.
Yeah, good call. Let's see. I would do that a lot. That's right. Also, a lot of these static files are, like web assets. We want to eventually serve them over service worker stuff. And then the code needs to have access to it. So one pattern is embedding them in. Because normally, like the stuff when we were doing Paragen, you can just refer to files on the file system. But if they're files that are sort of built in and you're distributing a binary, you don't want to have to distribute the binary and some static files. So there is a way to include those static files in the binary called embedding. And it's a kind of a neat feature because it's you just create a variable that is either a slice of bytes or an embed fs, but if it's a slice of bytes, it could just be one file, and then you do this directive here, and then you could specify a file name, and then when you compile, it'll look for that file relative to this source file, and then basically load it into the variable so that that file would then be sort of preloaded in your code as a variable. And then you could, if you have a bunch of files, you can embed a bunch of files or all the files in this directory, and it's embedded as a embedfs, which is implements open. So we could say dir open and then open any of the files that we have in here, loader.js.
Well, that seems cool.
Yeah, it's a feature that a lot of newer compiled languages have. Go is the first one I've seen to do that. There were some like third-party ways to do that before, but now that it's built in, it's really nice. But I often do this pattern where static files that I want to include in the compiled binary, I create a package. And really, maybe the only Go code in that package is a variable called dir that embeds everything in that directory. And so then you have this boot.dir package that you can use just to access boot files. So it's kind of like, a directory in your code base.
I see.
We could do something like that here. Of course, what would we? And I'm also hesitant because I know we're going to reorganize stuff. So some kind of temporary name for static. And I'll usually create the file name to be embed so that when I'm looking at it, I can see that that's what I'm doing. Oh, embed everything. So now there is a assets package with just a dir variable, but it won't put stuff in there. Get doing this. Pretty sure it does directories, although I don't want to do. This directory has a ton of stuff in it because I basically pulled in basically all of v86 in here. Okay, let me think about this. How does this work? I guess this comes to the user experience. Use the command line tool to get it to serve files. Right now we use Mage to web server, but the user would use Wanix. Maybe I had this idea where, also kind of old example code. Back when Rohit was here. Remember Rohit?
It was so long ago.
I guess we could repurpose this. So the Wanix CLI, I imagine, will do a lot of things. One way to use it is to set up a Wanix file system on your file system, so mount it. Maybe we rename this to mount and then create another command called serve that would serve the web server. We might change it later, but that way these can exist a little better.
Makes sense.
Sorry. Okay, so I think we've effectively moved this, and then this. And the work is so straightforward. AI can do it for you. Do you see my? You don't use X.
No.
Why
don't you move to Blue Sky?
I mean, I will, I guess. But I tweeted some experiences with Claude recently because I've been using Claude more. And there were two weird things that I haven't experienced with ChatGPT, but one was maybe I can. There's a his filing. Yeah. So related to this mounting stuff, right now we're using Fuse, which is built into Linux, but it's not built into Windows. This doesn't work on Windows. And on Mac, you have to install a third-party kernel driver, which involves restarting and all this. So not ideal, but at least in terms of getting something working, it's fine. Because now if you want to run this on Mac and do this mount, you need to also install this other thing. So trying to figure out what's built in to the operating system. A friend of mine mentioned they found a 9p mount command on Mac OS, like it came with one, but it wasn't documented. And it actually makes sense. His hypothesis was it's for virtualization because 9p is often used by VMs and emulators to do, like when you do a run Docker and you mount files into it, that's, I think, using 9p maybe. But a lot of VMs, they use 9p as the protocol to like get host files into the guest system. And since macOS has like a whole virtualization framework that lets you do that, they probably are using that 9p thing for it, but it's not documented, so it's not like part of a public API. So I was asking, does it support 9p for mounting? By the way, I asked ChatGPT that, and it said no. I asked Claude that, it says yes. Although it's talking about all these indirect ways to do it, like, use Fuse. I was
Oh,
like,
I
okay,
see.
not really. Doesn't the newer version have virtualization features that use 9p? Oh, yeah, you're right. Da, 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 da. How can I use
I
it to do
hate
my...
that. Ugh.
I know. Well, it gets better. How could I use this to do my own 9p mounts? And it's like, oh, you can't really. However, this gives me an interesting idea. It might be possible to create a minimal proxy VM that could act as a... I was like, oh, that's actually a novel idea. And it's weird that it's just this little aside. Oh, it got an idea. Like, what the hell?
Wow.
Um,
Very interesting.
and then the other funny thing was I was testing, because we're going to do WASI support for Wanix, and we're not building in the Go compiler like we did with the first version, but we could
Mhm.
try and run the compiler as a WASI compiled thing, but still compiling it to WebAssembly, but using the WASI specific format, which is whatever, the universal way. If you're going to build to WebAssembly and you want to run in sort of like a standard way, would compile to WASI. And I haven't done that yet. So I was trying to do that, and I was asking some questions. How do I compile for WASI? Oh, you do this. It said, you want to compile the Go toolchain itself for WASI. That's currently not supported as a host platform. I was like, I don't think that's true. I compiled it for not WASI, but just plain JavaScript, what we did before.
Mhm.
And it's like, oh, you're right, but that's a different runtime. This is slightly different. WASI slightly different. You'd likely get build errors.
Wait, is it right about that? Is that helpful?
Well, so I went and I tried it myself. I was like, look, no errors. It compiled just fine.
Look, no errors.
You've proven me wrong. But then it said, this is fascinating. I wasn't aware this was possible. Would you mind sharing what you're planning to do with this?
Oh, they want to steal your ideas.
Like, no, I don't really want to tell you. Like, how is that useful for me?
Yeah, you work for me, okay?
But yeah, so it's weird that like, at least Claude is getting more uncanny.
Yeah, do you think it's smarter than ChatGPT? I mean, I know this is just one.
For coding stuff, it seems to do a better job.
Mm.
And
Hmm.
yeah, I don't know why, but I don't know. Everything's always changing. Days.
Have you
with
tried
that.
the new Chinese one? I forget the name of it.
No, because they're doing what I thought would eventually
DeepSeek.
happen, where they, you can, a lot of these things are, trained on training data, da 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 da. And there's this idea that I don't hear talked about too much, where you can you could use another model to generate training data for a new model. It's sort of like bootstrapping a model based on another, training it on data generated by another model, as opposed to, and so it's kind of a shortcut. It's kind of also a copy of a copy, though. You know how you like
Playing telephone.
yeah, or what was that movie, Multiplicity, where they cloned them, but then there was a clone of a clone. They got dumber and dumber every time. So,
Deep cut.
but yeah, it seems pretty obvious, because DeepSeek's, like, if you ask it what model it is, it's like, I'm ChatGPT. So it's like, I wonder.
That's funny.
And so, it's cool that it's free or whatever, and you can run it locally. But, and I'm not saying that that's like a bad thing to the copy of a copy. Like, I do feel like that's how, and by the way, it's against the terms of service that you do that, training a model using another model. So I think they're investigating that. If they can prove that that's what they did, then they can, I don't know, do something. They're in China. They can't really, like, China has
Yeah.
retro computers that are just preloaded with like tons of games. If you buy them, like you buy these little devices, they'll just preload all these games. It's like, well, it's piracy, but it's like, I guess there's nothing we can do about it. They're in China? I don't know.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Weird
Very
stuff.
interesting. Well, that is good to know about it. Because I didn't know that.
But yeah, the weird stuff, like, just it's like, you know, I get it. They're trying to make it feel like there's a little person, a little assistant person. And yeah, maybe the context of this would be helpful for it in helping me further. But it's just weird that they do it this way. It's like, you know, I don't know. Like a phone system trying to pretend to be human. It's like, you're clearly not. Stop trying. You're not fooling me.
Yep. Just going to be more and more of that, I suppose.
Although,
we should cherish these times we get to talk to a real person.
Although I actually really look forward to the day that they use AI for phone stuff instead of phone menu systems, because those suck.
Well, okay. I mean, kind of, because the only times I call is when I have a question that's so weird it doesn't really fit. And I don't know if an AI would be much smarter.
Okay,
really.
well, like they've gotten to a point where they do, like, oh, say your thing, which I kind of find annoying. Like, say what you want, and they're like, what's this call about?
Yeah.
But it's so simplistic. It's like, basically they're doing, you know, doing voice to text and then comparing it against a list of topics. And so, like, if you do something weird, it's not in one of those topics. But I'm saying if the whole system was more of a LLM, it should be able to reason about those weird cases, as long as they give it capability to do something with that, like know what to do in that case.
Yeah. Do
like,
you know
whatever
what's crazy?
whatever training a person goes through, an LLM could go through, and it would do it much better, basically.
I mean, as long as there's some way to get an escape hatch to a human, honestly.
Oh yeah.
There's a pizza place sorry, this is off topic, but it's kind of related. There's a pizza place we call into, and they don't have anyone answering the phone anymore. It's just an AI, and if it doesn't know what you're saying, it just like sends you to a voicemail, and no one ever responds or like. So we had to literally like walk to the restaurant and place an order.
Yeah.
Because we were using like some gift card thing, and they didn't account for that.
Funny that pizza delivery is always like the first. Like,
it's like a fancy pizza place too. I'm like, really?
But like, pizza delivery was one of the first things you could do on the web. That was like deliver food. Always pizza. Now pizza is pioneering AI shenanigans.
Yeah, not a fan. And then my credit card company, I was having an issue. They'll just hang up if they don't know what you want. If it doesn't match.
Yeah.
Anyways.
I mean, they can do it poorly. I'm just saying the potential is there to actually, like, oh, it can reason about my weird case almost better than a human. Like, it has the potential to do that because it's still within the realm of the domain of, you know, whatever the thing is. So if it knows about that domain, plus it has, you know, the thing about LLMs versus like other, like, you know, say what you want, is that they can actually reason. They have like common knowledge kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. In theory, it'd be better.
In theory, yeah. No wait times, I guess.
and actually try to help you because, whereas a person who, whatever they're incentivized in terms of like, I don't know, how systems are set up, positive feedback and like number of calls handled and stuff
Yeah.
like that. Like an AI,
Upgrades.
it would be cheap for it to just like, this is a hard problem. Let's keep working on it, Let's try this. Let's
Yeah.
try this. And I'm thinking about healthcare and stuff too, because that,
Oh God. Yeah. I mean, I could see it going either way. Sometimes it's nice to have a human sympathy. Maybe they could do things that are like not necessarily, or like a little bit more than they're allowed to do. Bend the rules. No more of that with AI.
yeah, maybe. I guess why would they be incentivized to do that? But yeah. I mean, it's possible. Like the thing where it's like, oh, that gives me an idea. It's like, oh, in theory, they could come up with novel things. The company might not want that or allow it, but like potentially it could do that. So maybe there's third parties, like insurance brokers that are not like they just want to help set you up.
Yeah, what if you had an AI that was looking out for your best interest and then it contacted the AI
That's how it should be.
looking out for the
That's
company's best interest?
right. That's
You
the
just duke it
ideal
out.
model, is that people have their own agents that run on their own hardware that acts in their best interest. That's the dream.
Well, yeah, as long as it's accessible.
Yeah. Yeah.
Man, I feel like that's probably not too far off, some things like that.
Hopefully. So our serve, and again, at some point, we could pick another port or make it configurable, but okay, so we're working on what's in the CLI. We want it to serve files that are embedded, the files that.
It is just about noon, by the way. I know you just got back into it.
Well, yeah, let me try and do one more. Is we'd have to serve two, and I don't think this directory alone is. Oh. Directory 432 meg. And I haven't quite figured out how that's. Oh. Okay, well, maybe I'll figure that out on our break. Yeah, I guess break time. I need a drink. Water.
Okay. See you in 5.
Right.
Back whenever you are.
Yes, yes, I am. And I remembered something.
Oh, really?
Yeah, in Wanix and a couple of other projects. For kind of external dependencies that might be have like their own build project, their own build process or patches or anything like that. External directory. Good. Pattern. We have a couple of those. V86, which we're going to be, the emulator that runs Linux. And then also Linux itself, basically building a custom kernel. Can move a bunch of this stuff out. Actually split it up too, because there are a couple of things going kind of a mess. So things, this Docker file builds 86 and applies these. Does it need anything else? Make file to actually illustrate that. Now this is something, apparently this is cross-platform. So then we can go into v86 and build, and it will basically Docker and pick out v86 and put our patched files in there, copy them out current directory. So they're sort of built artifacts that we don't want to have in the repository, so getting for them. Yes, thank you.
You're so polite.
Well, what's the alternative,
Mm-hmm.
Fuck you, AI. I guess that helped. Thanks for automating my work. Trying to put me out of the job. A lot of these are experimental things that I don't really need. And then WTux, this is... I made a Linux distribution, me and Joelle. Call it WTux. Although...
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, it's just a minimal Linux kernel. Because you can build custom... the Linux is just a kernel. I'm sure you've maybe heard that before.
Sure, yeah.
All of the programs that you use in Linux are are not Linux. They're just other third-party things. Usually GNU, open source or free software things, but kernel itself is just, or Linux itself is just a kernel, and you can compile it from source, but it has a module system, so you can basically configure it to include or not include stuff, which just like kind of enable or disable things. Big config file like this. There's a menu version of this that produces a file, but a lot of what Linux is are different drivers for different things, like, all these different kinds of devices it can support, and different CPUs, and all the, it's a hardware abstraction. So like all possible hardware. That's why Linux is cool, because it's an open source thing that supports most hardware these days. But because we're running it in a virtual machine that's not real hardware, you don't need a lot of that stuff. Like there's support for other CPU architectures, and it's like, well, we're always running it in v86, and that's always going to have the same architecture. So anyway, we've been doing this because if we want to embed Linux in Wanix, then the size of the Linux kernel will impact the size of the Wanix binary, which on the web you want it to be as small as possible. But like the kernel is usually maybe like 12 megabytes. And mostly through Joel, we've gotten it down to like 1.5 megabytes. It's like a tenth the size.
So you're still working on it, sort of, or?
Yeah, well, we got it down pretty low. Like, I don't know if we can get it lower than 1.5 megabytes. And now it's kind of like, well, we have to add stuff back because, and it won't necessarily like make the size bigger, but we disabled so much that, like in v86, this is the virtual network card that it has is I think NE is for Novell and old. Anyway, like here's the driver that we need for it to work. So we're kind of adding things back as we try and get like networking and stuff. But in terms of like a basic thing that can run the shell and is the file system, pretty small.
Cool.
And we've been doing it in this separate project. That's why I had to give it a name. WTux, Wanix. I feel like Wanix and Linux are so similar. So Tux is, sometimes used to refer to Linux. Silly mascot. Anyway, I don't love this name. It's not really made to be used outside of Wanix. But I think at some point we can just kind of pull these files in and put them under external. For now, we'll just use that as a place to put the build artifact. BZ image. Weird. That's what they call the kernel. This is the Linux kernel. It's called BZ image. Why is that?
Makes total sense.
Yeah.
What is it? Does BZ stand for something?
Probably bzip. So it's compressed. So it's telling us, and I don't know why it's not like a file extension, but yeah, BZ is the compression, and then image is the same kind of image, like when you image something, it's creating a representation of it. So not necessarily like a picture, but like a Docker container has a Docker image, or a virtual machine has an image. An image is just I don't know, a version, an
Just
image
image.
of it. Yeah, it's an image of it. I don't know how to describe it, but
Yeah.
it's weird that there's no like kernel or Linux or anything in the name. It's just easy image. That's what you call it.
Very humble.
And then this is a minimal file system that has BusyBox. I think I told you about BusyBox.
Yeah, it sounds familiar.
Okay, so that's set up. This image, I guess I don't really even use, but we can put a little backup of it in a hidden get ignored directory. Then I don't think we need anything else. I'll just do this. I think we can get rid of this. And we're basically replacing this with a command on the CLI. So we page, I guess. That leaves. Finally, we're down to main.go. And then the WASM file it produces, which maybe we want to put that in. Yeah. But maybe with it getting. This is, I guess we should call it when. And so now, I think I deleted the mage file that builds it, but I guess we can back a root make file. WASM, we want to build WASM. We need it to be OS build. Output it into WASM. Figured that out. This is wrong though. We build. Clean. I don't know. Clean. Oh, but we build it with TinyGo. Not this Go. Man, I kind of wish I didn't delete. Yeah, the mage file that had the build task in it.
Or that you were using Git.
Yeah, I haven't been committing this stuff, so I totally lost it, I think. It's pretty much the same. TinyGo build. I guess we could. Okay, just show me. No, you don't. Don't. Stop. Okay, I was not specific. Very sorry. Just the shell command, please. Tiny go target WASM, so it's a little. Not use WASM. Okay. Okay. Tiny go, I guess. That. Nord. Okay. Okay. We're getting to. Now WASM is finally cleaned up. But we have to change a bunch of stuff now because we move things around for when we serve it. First of all, what are we serving? Serve. Yes, a file server, but yes, that is correct. Figured it out. Thank you, AI. So basically, it's just going to serve all of the files under assets, except from the binary itself, since we built them in. So the root index, and we probably have to change some of the. These are all in the same place. Oh, the actual v86 files. We have to somehow get those in there. Guess we could basically do the same thing, create an embed. And then have it embed the specific files, which we have to also make. 6. Love waiting for her compiles. I mean, when I was working on the file system stuff, I had to, any change, I would have to like run this. And then, yeah, it was very slow.
It's a good opportunity to like look out the window. You know, you're supposed to look at something far away.
Oh, man.
Every once in a while, come on.
Yeah,
come
yeah,
on.
yeah. Okay, so instead of embedding everything in the directory, because there's a bunch of stuff, we just put files and the package 6. And we need to serve them as well. How do we do that? I've made a whole system for composing file system. Let's maybe try and use it. fskit. Guess we could do a map. Mapfs 6. then assets. We just want to combine them. If I do this, just use fsys again and do a union of previous file system and assets. Did not like this. No? What's wrong with this? Oh, it's initiated something. Oh, we can just do this. Here, we made a little virtual file system that is the combination of our assets directory. So this is the cool thing. The reason my file system stuff is aligned with the same file system API that they use for embed. Embed is just something that implements open and some other things, but it's a file system in the same way that all the file system stuff we've been doing. So we're able to use our file system composition utilities to say, let's combine this directory with this file system that has a directory called v86 that contains 86. This change back to fs. Guess test that. So there's build for the WASM, and then we have a separate build for our CLI. Just call it Wanix. That one. Yeah. Yeah, that's why? Oh. Gave it a specific file, so it's not doing that whole direct. Nope. Relative path. Okay. Wanix. Does it have serve and mount? So that's the new one. And serve, but I guess I wanted to check to see that there fix directory with okay, that there, and that we have assets like index showed up, so it should work. L2 WF Linux to Wanix file system. Okay. So we're now serving all the files. We're now exactly where we were when we started, except it's more organized.
I mean, that's a win.
And I guess it's built into the CLI. Probably good. That's what people would use. And now that everything is kind of cleaned out, we can now figure out how we might want to split this up into multiple source files. A big part of this is defining the API that everything is using. Maybe that could be a separate. Nope. And figure out how we would set up. Guess it needs root. Pull. Baby. I got one where it's wrong. And talk, is that correct? No. Root is proc. No, wait, what? Not root, proc process. No. Yes. For some reason, inode is undefined. Right. Oh, because they're not both. All right, no problems. I feel like a lot of this could be cleaned up as well, but this is already a little bit better. I don't even think we use these. I was trying something. There, but
You can have stuff that's not used.
only if it's a top level thing. Like if it's a package level thing.
Oh.
Otherwise, yeah, it would complain. If we define these in here, be like, oh, hey, you didn't use them. But package level stuff doesn't, because it's set up in case you declare them and then maybe you set them later. I don't know. I don't know why it's different, but maybe we'll. Now we just have main in here. Ooh, nice.
Very nice.
Okay. Be happy with this? We should probably try it out. Oh yeah, something didn't work. Oh, we changed the name. This file's still a mess, but oh, that's what I wanted to get to. I wanted to find this in a nice file in itself. This is sort of like the main JavaScript API. So it doesn't make sense to just put that on the page. It would be a JavaScript file.
Mm-hmm.
Where the hell? Okay. I also didn't write this code, so as and okay, so here's the problem. Even though we're modifying static files, we have to rebuild every time now because they're coming from the binary, which is built. So
Well, that's fun.
I have a way around it. Anyway, it looks like that works, and that works. So I think we're back in a good state. File's a mess, but I did want to pull this out. Almost all of good, I guess. Up then. Ugh, come on. Indentate. Okay. Kind of for demo purposes. They're just wrapping class. Really for demonstrations, so I guess, and debugging. Otherwise, we'd have to be.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but then there's the setup. Ideally, everything is set up when you create a new Wanix. Some of this I want to put in class instantiation. We have our message channel that we pass to Wanix. Get one end of it, and then set up a public port or a global port that then the WebAssembly code can then reference. That's how they communicate. The best way to do this, I'd also ideally like this is like a fallback. See how widely available. All right, so we don't need this fallback. Already a little bit nicer. This was like some bug code to run after loaded. Not sure why. Set up a global RWAN. Where couldn't this go? And then this here. Well, that feels a lot nicer. Oh, go import object. That's why it was outside. Okay. And eventually I want to run this in a web worker. Can do that. A little later. Only use of this right here. I hate the JavaScript text encoder decoders.
Yeah.
And why are they separate? We just like text codec, and it then has two methods: decode and encode. Great, two.
Mm-hmm.
This is a little hard to read. I don't know. We'll just do this.
I mean, are people going to be reading it that often?
No, and at some point I'll probably remove it entirely. I guess for me.
That matters.
And you know, I was already like trying to figure out what is it doing by looking at the mess, so this is just a little bit easier. At the end of the day, always, it almost doesn't matter. I wonder if we could do this inside the step in the right direction. We would need this. Till we find a better way to get the past the port. Actually, it'll be pretty easy once we do. But for now, this should be. Yeah. That. And I guess because these are all dependent on where we put the Wanix instant be together. Maybe even. that, and then maybe take those and put. And this is an ES modules. Let's see. This is save state stuff. Stuff that will. Okay. Make sure this works and pretty good play. Oh, I think. Ooh, okay. All right, now we are. This is a lot nicer. Not perfect, but definitely cleaned up. So one of the weird things is we want to make it so that you can create web workers in Wanix through the file system. But then we also want to put Wanix in a web worker. So we kind of have a bootstrapping problem there. And I guess we could kind of manually put it in a web worker. Then or just out of worker for now. And there's not a whole lot of time, but there should be enough time to at least start sketch out a web worker device. Web worker, isn't that nice? We have a directory structure that maps to.
Very nice.
Those are the little things I like about organizing. That's kind of why I like Go's approach to naming, where it's like, include the package name, even though it's kind of ugly that when you refer to it, VM.device, different capitalization rules and everything. But conceptually, right, it's a lot nicer. I mean, Java and stuff like that, they would be like, oh, virtual machine device. Oh, machine, but you get the idea. So verbose.
Yeah.
I mean, I get the whole anti one letter thing, but I also just hate super verbosity. It makes it harder to parse, not just type when you're reading it.
Yeah, I mean, ideally it's somewhere in the middle for me. Well, no, not somewhere in the middle. The least amount of letters that you can still tell what it is.
I would add the ideal is what is idiomatic for that context. That's why I do short names, because that's how things are in Go. It's part of the culture.
But I mean, yes. But as someone who's like an outsider, logically that doesn't really make sense to say like, oh, we'll do it this way because that's how it's done. To me, that's not.
Yeah, but there's a reason for
compelling.
it. I mean, and plus it's weird because it's cultural, so there aren't like guides on it. But eventually you realize how it works. It's like, oh, you're making a device. So D is device. In this context, D is device. That makes sense. I guess you would prefer it to be like device. Then there's other problems too, because you might have device might be a package that you're importing as well. So now there's a device that's whatever. So I don't know. There are reasons for it, and some of them are old. Like Go is made by people that made Unix, and back then they used a lot of short names for reasons of computational efficiency and stuff. But
yeah, I mean, I definitely don't know all of like you're saying the packages and stuff. That's something I didn't think about, but the cultural part of it is less compelling to me. I mean,
maybe if it was documented though, right?
No, I mean, I would optimize more towards like someone being able to go in and read the code, and if you encounter D somewhere without seeing it declared, will you still know what it is?
Mm-hmm.
Like right away. I mean, that to me should be optimized for.
Yeah.
But if you're writing your own code and it's just for you, then who cares?
Yeah. Yeah, at that point, you do whatever you want. You make long names if you want.
The longest.
Exactly. And then if anybody sees it, they'll judge you. So many of these device things.
That's what you should call them, device thingies.
Maybe just thingies.
Yeah. I guess it means more or less the same thing as module.
Yeah, exactly. Let's see, there aren't types of work. And that. And I had a rough outline in Trello of what I wanted to do here. Pretty much just new, like all the really a type. It's like chunk file that would read it. Oh. Weird. Device next to E. Type. And then what the hell? Oh, it's pretty much the same thing. That's right, because in those cases, we usually have a directory under new for like different kinds of new things that you could make. And so far, the VM is the only one where there isn't that, so it's just new.
Mm.
Open, and all this is basically boilerplate. I'm a little concerned about how much boilerplate there is, but and then a web worker will have a control file, specific. No way to even this text. They're gonna be. I think one of them is like art. Terminate. Implement here. Type. We don't have type. A couple of things I would want. One is the state of the worker. Also, maybe with the file system. What that's gonna look like. I'll comment it out so there's source file and error thing. Now we're gonna these are is it a field files? Okay, I can take this. I should call this. The problem with this trick of like taking any number of arguments of any type and then using the type to figure out what to set them is they don't really know what's supported by the signature. File. Also, can field files? Oh, it looks like they have getter and setter. So it could just be a value. I guess then we can provide a setter. I want to make these right. We're almost at time, but also yes. And we do this. Resource, boilerplate. Okay, so it doesn't actually do anything, but we have kind of like the sketch of like, oh, we can create new web workers and do some commands that don't anything. Oh, I guess we could change the state. Yeah, come back AI. Running. State terminated. The initial state is opt, I guess. Allocated. Okay, so this is like a shell of a thing. Oh, and then we need to add. Yep. And yep. And okay.
Speed coding.
What?
Speed coding.
What's the first word you're saying?
Speed.
Speed. Okay.
Yeah.
Beads? Bees?
Close.
Oh, I need thing. We're almost done. Be a good place to. The music's already stopped. Like telling us to get off the stage.
Mm-hmm.
Guess. Sure. Okay. What is it? Allocated. Source is empty. Put something in there, I believe. And then we can also profile, log, and then. Okay.
Boom.
Did it. So it's not
Nice.
actually doing a worker, but we have kind of like the shell of the file system. Back to next
Excellent.
time.
Next time. Cool. I'm gonna go eat lunch.
Okay. Good plan. Thanks, everybody. Oh, and we're gonna work on Terrigen a little later.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Got the energy?
2? We'll see. You
It
wanna
can
do
be
2?
short. It can be short.
Okay.
I worked on it
Alrighty.
yesterday.
Oh,
I gotta
did
show
you?
you some
Cool.
stuff. Yeah, it's almost
Well,
done. We're almost done.
I went to see Companion.
Oh, I wanted to see that.
Yeah, it's good. I liked it.
Okay, I guess I'll check it out.
Yeah. Okay, bye-bye.
All right. See everybody later.